Hello, family and friends. How is everyone? Just wanted to come on today just to talk about current events and the madness which is going on. Oh, man. So, I just wanted to start this by telling a story about there was this huge valley, and within that valley there was a small farm, and in that farm they had horses, and they kept them in this large pen, plenty of space to move around, the kids playing and whatever, but the gate was open, so many of the horses could stretch their legs and go out further. But on the other side of the valley there were wild horses who were just free to do whatever they want, just run for miles and miles. They had no desires to join the other horses in the pen, the enclosure. So a few of the horses who liked to stretch their legs, they got to see the wild horses and how they were so free, just running around. And they came back to the pen. They were speaking to the other horses about the wild horses. And the horses who stayed in the pen, they didn't stray far. Spent most of their time in the pen. They were like, oh, we like it here. We got this, we got free food. We don't have to worry. We're safe here. We don't have to worry about anything. And they didn't like the idea of the wild horses. They just didn't like them. So, after time, the horses who kept leaving the pen joined the wild horses. They ran around for a bit, got to know the wild horses, and they actually enjoyed their time with the wild horses. But they had a habit of just coming back to the pen, close friends, family. And then arguments came along. Arguments arose. And those horses who left the pen, spent some time with the wild horses, were saying to the horses who never left the pen, didn't like leaving the pen, didn't stray far from the pen. They were saying, oh, we think that the gate's going to close one day. And the other horses, they laughed. They didn't really care. They just enjoyed their time in the pen. They were comfortable, free food, veterinarian, getting brushed. And after a couple of years, the gate started to close, but it opened again. The gate was closed at night times, and the gate was open for a few hours a day. So those horses, they kept leaving, going, doing their own thing, freedom. And some of the horses didn't come back because they always knew the gate was going to close. And they said, look, that gate's going to close permanently one day and we won't be able to run free. But some of the horses, they just, out of habit, they kept going back, kept going back, kept going back. One day the gate closed permanently. And the other horses were saying, oh, you see, we were right. Now we can't go and stretch our legs. We can't even go and see the other horses. There's a nice place on the valley by the stream where we enjoyed ourselves, and now we can't go back there. Now we're stuck here in the pen. And people are, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Look, we got free food. We got vets. We get brushed. And so they still boasted that they had a good life. But those who spent a lot of time out of the pen were starting to get miserable. Eventually, a year later, the wild horses started getting captured and brought into the pen. And it wasn't until all the wild horses were captured, put into the pen, and the gate was closed permanently. It wasn't until then that most of the horses realized that they weren't free. But there was always gonna be, there ended up being a small group of horses who still insisted that they had everything they needed, there was nothing wrong. We're getting brushed, we have free food, and we have veterinarian. But by this time, people were getting the horses. Sorry, the horses were becoming more and more sick because they're all in close proximity. The males are clashing over females, food. They're all splitting into factions. And they started to get sick. Because obviously there were more horses, so there was less food. There was less space. And there was a small group of horses who kept on making excuses, saying everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. But most of them realized that they should have left the gate. They should have left when the gate was open. So, let's talk about current events. Do you know what? Question time tonight should be very, very, very interesting. It's in London, so obviously there'll be varied opinions, but you know how I don't trust this show. They're gonna vet this audience thoroughly because they have Ukrainians who have immigrated to the UK in the audience. They were asking for like 3 weeks solid for them to come and be in the audience. So obviously it's going to be it's going to be interesting for me to see if there's a clash of opinions and people saying, oh, this isn't our war, we should stay out of it, blah blah blah. And if anyone mentions Zelensky and stuff like that, if nobody's going to drop history, nobody's going to drop truth, but it's going to be interesting. I reckon it'd be interesting. I expect it to be so fake. A whole lot of pandering, and I'm just gonna watch it tonight. It's gonna be so interesting because things are really getting interesting. You see, what the media has done, they've spent the past 8 years slamming Trump and making him look like a complete buffoon. And then as soon as Trump loses the election and Biden comes into power and they go to war, they're making the real clown They try to make us take the real clown seriously, which is Zelensky, the celebrity president, who made a living out of being a clown. And they expect us to take him seriously. And you see, obviously, over these years, President Trump, he's been watching the news. And he's probably been interested in what Europe say about him. And sometimes I see this as a bit of retaliation. He's had enough. Even though when he came to power the second time, everyone started doing obeisance and kissing the ring and everything. Now, he's saying, no more sweets for you guys. No more sweets. You've had too many sweets for too long. Now, Europe's throwing toys out the pram. And they look so stupid, especially Britain. Britain looks so weak, dumb, and stupid. It's like the big bully is now being homeschooled, and all his little friends are having to be totally different people, you know. I've been using this analogy for a while now about the big bully and a schoolyard, because it's basically what it is. And at this point, I don't care if it's scripted or not. Personally, I do think it's scripted. Because one thing that's all guaranteed is the rebuilding contracts. And, you know, Ashkenaz, the house always wins. The house always wins. And we all know who runs the media. So I take nothing seriously. And I just think they're playing games with all of us. Like I said, the top people in the cult, in the club, they know what's going on, but everyone else below thinks this is real. And to me, it does look a bit like America's trying. They are trying. They're like, look, we're spread thin. We are spread thin. And we're about to implode. So they're taking a couple of steps back. And they're like, look, we're going to have to look after ourselves. Our people are about to tear each other apart. They're about to come after us. Actually, that was very interesting. The little dig that J.D. Vance had at Europe. Because he's seen the same similar thing. That's the exact reason why they allowed Trump to get into power. J.D., he dropped a little gem there, and he was probably speaking about his own country and why Trump's into power when he said that. And when he said that, I just had to write it down. What did he say? If you're running in fear of your own voters, there's nothing America can do for you. And the faces around the room. Oh, it was hilarious. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because it's so true. And that's why Trump had to come into power, because that's exactly what was happening in America. They knew the place was about to implode. And that's why I was even saying, do you know what? Vote for that guy. Vote for Trump, because these people, you know, bullets, beans, and Bible, guns, God, and Trump, they're about to kick off. So just give them what they want and let them see. Let them see. Let it play out. Give them what they want. Let it play out. And now we got this whole rhetoric about, the strong man. People only fear the strong man Trump and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no. At the end of the day, what Trump has done is the right thing. Sticking to the original agreement. Ukraine was never supposed to be part of NATO. You know, Ukraine is very strategic. That's where the Germans came in, and that's where the Germans fled. The Nazis, shall I say. It's very strategic. Plus, we're finding out about the minerals, and there's other things like the agriculture and other stuff. Access to the sea, because that's what's going on as well. We have to consider these are kind of things which happen before war. The propaganda wars, the misinformation and disinformation. These are the kind of things that happen before the jostling of positions, the sweetening up allies, because at the end of the day, if there's going to be a war, it says, can we come to your country and invade from there? Can we strategically move from here and move from there? Also, food. Will you be able to feed our army this and feed our army that? People have to think about feeding their armies. You don't go to war without these plans, without knowing that you'll be able to feed your army, where your army will be able to make camp, where you can attack from, the ground, whether it's forest, hills, cities, mud. Is there lakes and rivers? Water is very important. This is what's happening right now. So, you know, listening to the news and seeing what's happening next is just all misdirection, misinformation, because no way you're going to get correspondents coming on and saying, oh, this is going to happen. If it's really going to happen, if that's what's really happening, they wouldn't be telling you on the news. Britain looks so stupid. Europe looks so stupid. And America's saying, look, this shouldn't happen in the first place. We're going to back off. You lot have to make peace. And people saying, oh, Zelensky's got to be at the table. It's no, this is what happens when you have no balls. All this time, this man has had to be standing behind Blinken, standing behind Boris Johnson, standing behind Rishi Sunak. Now he's standing behind David Lammy and Keir Starmer. And their soldiers need to be trained by the British and by the Americans. And it's like, if you have to be trained by other people, you shouldn't be going to war with one of the best armies in the world, biggest and best armies in the world. This is what happens when you've got no balls. You're just a middleman. Why take you seriously? Why should you be at the table? Why not go straight to the people who really make a difference, who can really make the decisions? At the end of the day, do you want all these politicians and diplomats, all these people who have been in this game for a while, sitting at the table with a cokehead celebrity? It's just a joke. And a heavyweight champion and a heavyweight boxing mayor. Like, I mean, come on. Come on. Come on. It doesn't matter how hard the media and Europe want to make us take this guy seriously and take this whole thing seriously. It's just no, that's not going to happen. So why should he be at the table? It's actually America and Britain and various other countries, France, Germany, whoever else, who have been goading Ukraine into this war. And now look, half a generation of Ukrainian men just gone like that. And the blood is on their hands. They look so stupid. But nobody cares about that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And they're already trying to get in there with rebuilding contracts and everything. That's what Keir Starmer was in Ukraine for, trying to secure rebuilding contracts and that. Because now they feel guilty. All those Ukrainian men just died for nothing. Absolutely nothing. And now Zelensky's trying to galvanize mega, make Europe great again. Oh my gosh. You can't make it up. Apparently you can. This is lunacy. This is why it's just, we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. This is stupid. None of this has got anything to do with us. Absolutely nothing to do with us. Yeah, I just see America. It looks like America trying. Seeing that they're spread thin, plus they're like, hold on, you guys are just as wicked as we are, but the whole world hates us. And we take the rap for everything. And now that America's backing off and Britain just doesn't know what to do, because we're just a nation of consumers. This is why we're so eager to get into this whole AI thing, because that's the only way they see of getting rich, keeping their riches. They're moving to a new market, and none of it's going to filter down to us. We're going to be the victims of this thing. There's billions to be made in enslaving the human race. The promise of growth and climate change and the wonders of AI, they just don't add up. They don't fit together. They don't. They don't. You can't promise growth but while looking at climate change at the same time. It's nonsense. And like I said before, this promise of, oh, AI is going to bring us loads of jobs and the new market and blah, 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 and it's going to be all for them. But promising you will be rich again and everything and all this, that's how they get your consent. That's how they get your consent. AI is only as good as the people who program it. And just think how this thing can discriminate as well. I believe it's already happening. I know it's already happening. And it's not us, it's the machine. Oh, it was a mistake, Oh, it was a glitch, But first of all, you have to prove it. And how hard is it to prove when the AI won't be discriminating necessarily on race, on gender, on sexuality? It's going to be discriminating on who you are. Whether you go along with the one world voice or not. Don't forget, your phone is always listening. the comments you make on social media, your political decisions. You sit down with your peers and your colleagues and you have these conversations now and again about what's going on in the world. And your phone is listening. Your phone knows your voice. Your phone goes everywhere with you. And it's all being fed into the machine, and the machine knows you. So the machine will discriminate and crush your options, limit your options and your opportunities. And nobody will ever know. The machine made the decision. You don't know why. You can never argue with it. And how worse it's going to get. How much worse it's going to get once it's all in place. Oh, this guy's listening to extremist points of view. He's going to commit a terror crime. And you're like, no, I won't. Yes, you are. No, I won't. Come on. No, I won't. And you're just arguing with the machine. But you won't even know it's the machine who's decided to put you in this certain category because of what view you have, what world view you have. All of a sudden it's just labelled you in a person of interest, one to watch, untrusted, normal, and suspicious. And you wonder why there's so many people out of work. Yet at the same time, everyone's using AI to choose. And people can't put two and two together. A lot of people see it, but they don't care. It's absolutely cowardly. We are living in one of those times in history where people say, how did it happen? And I know clearly, a lot of us are seeing now how it happened. Cowards. People just not paying attention. Airheads and numbskulls. And that can be educated people as well. You could be very educated and still be an airhead and a numbskull. And believing in politics proves that. Cowards. I forgot something. In the last video in the book of Revelations, I forgot something. Nobody wants to talk about the failures of AI and the faults. There's people who were in this AI thing, the grandfathers of AI, they say, who are trying to raise the alarm and ring the bell and say, look, slow down on this thing. We don't need it in every single aspect. Because they've done the tests and it has scared them right to their core, some of the things this machine has done. But you know, they'll just do a tiny little news story on it. It won't be on the main 6 o'clock news. It won't be on the 10 o'clock news. It would just be some little piece on the side at probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where not even the housewives are watching. They've gone to collect the kids after school. And they won't tell us the mistakes this machine makes and the way it thinks. Plus the things that people can do. It's only as good as the people who program it. It will do exactly what it's programmed to do. Just like soldiers who have to take orders. At the end of the day, if you're worried about AI, you shouldn't be using it. No matter what it's for, you shouldn't be feeding it. Stop feeding the bloody thing. Stop. Someone's using it for this, using it for that, using it for this. No, I'm not touching the bloody thing. People say, oh, but you use AI in search engine and blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. There's a major difference. There's a major difference. That's just a search engine. We're talking about not being able to believe our eyes. Oh my gosh. Who saw Law and Order a couple of weeks ago? It did this case where there was this tech firm, and one of the guys was murdered because another guy wanted to take over the company and whatever. And what the guy who wanted to take over the company did is he framed a disgruntled employee that he killed the guy who owned the company. And there was no CCTV footage at the time, but later on in the case, CCTV footage turned up, and the guy swore blindly it wasn't him. He didn't really have an alibi because he was just a guy who chills at home. He lost his job. He was made redundant by the company. The AI took over and sacked everybody who programmed it. Well, the bosses sacked everybody. Once they got them to program it, they sacked everybody because now the machine can do what they do. You see, people really aren't paying attention. And basically, the guy did a deep fake of the disgruntled employee murdering the guys whose company it was. And I just thought, this is fascinating. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm usually really upset with Law and Order, but I was really pleased that they did that and they left it open. In the end, the guy, the disgruntled employee, he went down for murder, and he swore blindly that it wasn't him. This is a deep fake. This is a deep fake. And they just left it at that. They left it open. And the actual prosecutors, they were in doubt. And they were like, what have we just done? And it was just left open. So you never knew whether the guy was innocent or not. But the prosecutors were in doubt. But, they shrug these things off and just go back to work, the next day. Oh, well, what could we have done? This is where we're going. This is where we're going. Remember in Lord of the Rings, the new series, what's it called? Rings of Power, where they're making the rings, and the elf, who's a forger, a welder, whatever it is, he's arguing with the beast, with the demon, with the evil one. Basically, he's arguing with the evil one, saying we cannot give rings to men. And I was like, oh my god. See, this is exactly it. This is exactly it. And that's what AI is. It's a ring of power. They're all going to end up fighting over it. It's like, oh, they're getting way ahead of us. We need to catch up with them. They're going to be miles ahead of us. AI is going to run their military and this, that, and blah, blah, blah. But think about all these factors we have, which AI is learning about. Climate change, the pursuit of wealth, we want growth. Consumerism, the problems with plastic, the animals dying, the rainforest, all these kind of things. Think of the decision these computers are going to make without having human empathy. That decision is obviously going to be, you know what. To get rid of some of us, a lot of us. Or even so, that decision that the machine might make is these machines are in competition with one another. Just the same as our masters have this messed up mindset that they can go around the world doing this and that. The same way the machines will be in competition with each other. And we might not want to go to war as human beings, but the machines might decide. It's typical Skynet business. But no, full steam ahead, because everybody, a certain group amount of people want to get rich, and they're trying to convince you that you'll get rich as well, and that hasn't happened. We've been there in the late 80s and 90s. We've been there already. We've heard these promises already. But always remember, somebody has to be at the bottom. Somebody has to do the work. There always has to be worker bees. And right now, the worker bees are pissed. It's all about what they can get away with. It's all about tricking us. And I'm just really tired of them just leading us to this all hail AI, all hail AI. It's ridiculous to me. But how they get the average person on board, how they get the world on board, how they get the professional, the business world on board, the promise of growth and prosperity. And people can't see how their businesses are just going to go under eventually. When all the major companies start closing down their stores and saving a huge amount of money. And now they're just doing deliveries. Everybody's clicking at home, clicking. And by doing that, they can offer cheaper prices. And you're there with your couple of stores, your small store. Eventually, you're going to go under because you can't compete. And then they're just going to swoop in and buy you up. How bad will it get? That's the question. How bad will it get before God steps in? Before the Most High steps in and says, enough? That's the question. And I think it has to get really bad. Really bad. To the point we notice we're screwed. To the point where the wild horses are being brought into the pen and the gates closed forever. And then you ain't getting brushed so often. Not everyone can see the vet. We're fighting over food and space. And we're not allowed to have children. Because there's only so much space in the pen. We really need to understand what God is trying to tell us. the work of our hands. No matter what they try and do, they just make it worse and worse and worse. Industrial revolution. Whoa. We're coming to the end of the last industrial revolution. Where did it get us? Oh, climate change. We're destroying the earth. But they made their money and they got filthy rich. You know, when this actually does start to happen, if I'm still around, I'm just staying silent. People don't want to talk about it now. Oh, is that all you talk about? Oh, you're so boring. Oh, is that all you talk about? You're such a drag. People run away from you. They don't want to hear it. People, they just want to run away and bury their heads in the sand, man. Because deep down inside, they know, they see it. But they just want to get on with their lives. They just want that. All they want to know is what restaurant they're going to on Saturday. Who did well on Dancing on Ice? And all this other stupid nonsense that doesn't even bloody matter. And of course, Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Unbelievable. Just being bombarded with gossip and scandal and outrage and why isn't... We're just being distracted. Incompetence after incompetence, outrage after outrage, scandal after scandal, disaster after disaster. Planes crashing now, again. With this last one in Toronto, I hope you had your eyes peeled and you were looking properly. I don't know, if it was me, I'd be absolutely running in panic from a burning plane. Running as fast as I can to get as far away as I can. I wouldn't be casually stepping off the bloody thing with my handbag and my coat in one arm. Unbelievable. The work of our hands. So, where was I? Revelation. Speaking of cowards, right? This is what I missed. Revelation 21 and 8. Very important. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. But the fearful, the unbelieving, of course, we know what the unbelieving is. Mockers and scoffers, oh, it's a fairy tale. Oh, it was written by man, blah, 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 so on and so on and so on. And the abominable, transformers, people who drink blood, bestiality, all those really disgusting, outrageous things, unthinkable things, unspeakable things, which go on in the darkness. Murderers, obviously, whoremongers, friends with benefits, your one night stands, your casual flings, and blah blah blah. And sorcerers, people who are into occult practices, tarot card reading, all this kind of madness. Idolaters, Now, that can mean so many things. I don't want to go into other people's gods. You know, people have their gods which they bow down to, and they're made of wood and stone and have they're painted gold, and sometimes they're pure gold, and statues and stuff, and basically stuff like that. I'm not going to go into that because that's other people's business, you know. So idolaters can mean many things, including your gods on the idiot box. And all liars, liars, liars. Social media, Instagram in particular, all the fake lifestyles people have, the lies in the news, the lies the country's been telling about history, lies, just lies, 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 lies. That's why even in this time, in this day and age, when I think I may be in trouble, but I told the truth. At least I told the truth. I'm in trouble, but I love making a point of sitting down, looking people in the eye, and making them lie. Making them lie. Lie to my face. I don't care, I'm in trouble. I've told the truth, I'm not going to lie. But you wriggle out of it, you're going to lie to my face. You're going to look me in the eye and you're going to lie. Now, what stands out to this the most, you see, all these other things, they're quite obvious. But what does he mean by the fearful? What does he mean by the fearful? Amplified version. But as for the cowards, what does he mean by the fearful? Now, obviously, all this death and destruction is happening. Supernatural sights, fires, hail, plagues, all kinds of things that can't be explained. War. I don't think it's not that. Now, obviously, for the future of believers, what it says here, I think it does mean that a little bit, but mostly I think it means not to be afraid of being who you are and standing on the Father's business. Silo, very interesting. This is why I love that TV show. There's two characters in there. Sims. Now, Sims, he works for the law. He basically works for the judicial system within the silo. So they got the police officers, the sheriff and that, and then they've got the Justice Department, and he works for the Justice Department. He's worked for the Justice Department all his life. His father was basically in the club. His father was basically a janitor, but he was an important person. He was high up. He worked for the silo. He was like, people thought he was a janitor, but he was really a watcher, watching the people, grassing the people up. Now, Sims believes in the silo, but as he's seen certain things unfold, he knows something's wrong, and he's seen some things which he can't explain, and he knows there's some lies being told, He just wants to get to the truth. All he wants is the truth. So he's investigating, he's looking at this, he's looking at that. He's suspicious of the silo now. But he really is for the people, for the silo. He's 100% indoctrinated. But all he wants is the best for the people in the silo. But he doesn't understand what the silo really is. So in protecting the silo, he's actually not doing the best thing for the people. And this is all starting to unfold in Sims. It's really interesting, his character, and to see what he's going to do next. But his wife, she also has seen some stuff which she can't explain. She's seen some stuff which makes her question the silo. But it's what she says to him. What she says to him. She pulls him aside and she says, look, we don't know how this is going to play out. So until then, we're going to play both sides. And I was like, what? And I said, that's it. That's it. I was just screaming at the telly saying, that's it. That's that kind of cowardly attitude. That's that traitors to humanity. Oh, man. We don't know how this is going to play out. So until then, we're going to play both sides. Because the people down deep, which is basically the working class people, they're all revolting. They're planning revolution. And she's going to play both sides because she doesn't know who's going to win. That's understandable. For the wrong type of people. You can't be in this faith and have that kind of attitude. You have to pick a side. We're in those times now. There's no middle ground. We are in those times now. There is no middle ground. There is no playing both sides. And it made me question, is this what Christianity is? Having one foot in, one foot out. You see those two verses in the Bible which are very scary for believers. Depart from me, I never knew you, and I will spit you out because you're lukewarm. I'd rather you were hot or cold. So now let's move on to the mark, because I've been talking for a long time, man. Okay, the mark. It makes you really think about where it says the fearful. What does that really mean, the fearful? People are scared to stand on one side or the other. Oh, just focus on Jesus. Just focus on Jesus. I need to do a video on that. Remind me. Oh, gosh. Where was I? Sorry. The fearful, but the fearful. It's that exact kind of attitude, and it's a normal human reaction. People fear of being on the wrong side. And after my first few years, like 2018, 2019, 2021, where I was like, yeah, we need a revolution, blah, blah, blah. After realizing these things, I thought, yeah, that's the exact attitude of a lot of people. And this is how the leaders are left swinging, because people just want to be on the winning side. And they're the ones who get in there and infiltrate you, and they can easily be bought off for the right price, and they will sell you under the river. That's why it's just like, no. It's gotten too bad. All bases are covered. Sorry, let me move on. The mark. The mark. The mark. Okay, no man can buy or sell without it. This is why we all need to be mindful. And I'm not going to condemn anyone or argue with anyone about how they think about this thing. Yeah, some people think the vaccine is The vaccine basically was the mark. At first I was like, no, but I'm open to it now. But still, no man can buy or sell. That's why I don't really think it was. I get the argument that 2021 was the mark, but you could still buy or sell. The way I see it now, and I've thought about this is why we meditate on the scriptures. No man can buy or sell. And I'm thinking, it came to me, and I was thinking, especially how Yeshua always talk about deception. They're not really going to say, oh, you can't buy or sell without it. You can't do this. You can't do that. You think about how hard it is. How hard it is. How difficult it is without a smartphone. You only understand this when you've given up your smartphone. I love it when people are just like, oh, well, you can go online, oh, scan the QR code, blah, blah, blah. And I just do this. And they're like, oh. And they're absolutely baffled at how you can still just have a basic phone like this. Everyone assumes you have a smartphone. Everyone assumes you just have a smartphone in your pocket. To think about how awkward it's getting, how difficult, and how everyone assumes that you just have a smartphone in your pocket. And how you're able to do almost everything with the smartphone. But also think of how hard it is to live your life without going online. You see, I think this mark is going to rise not long after they get rid of cash. And then they get rid of cards for the environment. Plastic for the environment. Plus they get to save so much money. No receipts. The banks don't have to produce all these cards and the chips and everything. And slowly, little by little, all they need to do is link it. You can't have a social media account without the mark, no matter what it is. You can't have an email address without a mark. You can't have a job without a mark. You can't have a bank account without the mark. All these things, email address, social media, bank, jobs, all they need to do is agree to the mark, move over to the system. Just like everyone can just move over to cashless. Just like everyone's moved over to online. Just like everyone's just moved over to smartphone. They don't need to say you can't buy or sell. It will just be more and more difficult for you to do it without the mark. Just like life is more and more difficult without a smartphone, without an email address, without going online. This is how it's going to unfold. And it's like, oh, it's the future. This is the way we're going. This is it's convenient. It's for the environment. And people will still be waiting, saying, "Oh, people could still be saying, oh, I don't have a chip in my hand or a tattoo," and nobody thinks it's the mark. But it could be carrying one of these things at first. It could be a headset. This was seen in a vision 2,000 years ago. So if you're tapping your headset because you can't raise your arms, because your arms are occupied, because you just find it more convenient, because that's your lifestyle, you're walking around with the headset and digitally interacting with everything, because it's all AI and 5G all loaded into this thing, and now you're walking around with these goggles and all you do is scan them to things. Doesn't it look like you're putting your forehead? If you've seen this in a vision 2,000 years ago, it looks like you're putting your forehead to something. I don't know. I just keep it open and I just see this as something very deceptive. People are looking out for an actual physical mark, and you can't buy or sell. It's the way we see these things. They don't need to say you can't buy or sell. It's just the way life is now. It's virtually impossible to do it without it. And they can introduce these things and still you can buy or sell. First, all the people who have been waiting for it, all the people who've got investments in it, who are going to make money for it, they'll be doing it straight away. And then the celebrities, all the advertisements. And once the celebrities doing it, then all the airheads and numbskulls and the followers of fashion, they're going to do it as well. And that's a lot of people. And then there's going to be the incentives. And then it will be even harder for you to get into places, certain places. Then all the excuses, oh, because of terrorism, blah, blah, blah. We need to know that you're a citizen of this country and blah, blah, blah. Because we've had a lot of terrorist activity. We need to know, keeping you safe, keeping you safe. Everyone has to go through the system. Everyone has to go through the machine. So it probably will be a chip in the hand. I'm sure it will be a chip in the hand. This forehead business is more complicated. But I think it's for people who have lost their limbs, can't lift their arms. Possibly walking around with digital glasses on. And then that's the point when people realize, oh, this is the mark. Us as believers, we really need to focus on this. How will they do it? What will it be? It's gonna creep up on us. Because once you take it, that's it. The book says once you take it, you're done. You're done. So obviously, they're going to be very sly with it. They're going to be very sneaky with it. And a lot of people are going to have it while you can still buy or sell without it. And then life's going to get so much difficult until you get it. And to the point where you can't even have a bank account and you can't even have a job. And there's no such thing as cash. Which is why it's been so important to stand now before it happens. To refuse and say no now. Isn't there 2 billion believers in the world? 2 billion Catholics, Christians, and you can probably include Hebrews into that as well. 2 billion. There's no way this could happen if we all stood up and said no now. But you know, that's what Christianity is. We don't know how this is going to play out. So until then, we'll play both sides. Let's go along with the promise of growth and the wonders of AI, because it's for the economy. It's for the economy. Money is the answer to everything. Our biggest problems are society. How society is. It's not gun crime. It's not knife crime. It's just straight up violence and murder. You kind of downplay it or take away the seriousness of it all by calling it gun crime and knife crime. It's just straight up murder and violence. And the fact that it's in young people is incredibly alarming. If you take away the guns, then people will just end up stabbing each other. If you take away the knives, then people are just going to bludgeon each other to death, because it's violence and murder. The money is for them. Money is not going to solve these social issues that we have. It's not going to... Trying to get people out of poverty. We've always been in poverty. It's because a certain group of people have more than enough, way too much, from taking advantage of the many. The problem is wicked men and evil and selfishness, fame, vanity, greed, lust. And the rest, which has just gone from my mind. You see, when that time comes and people want to start talking about this stuff, I ain't going to want to talk about it, because I'll just get angry with people. And I'll tell them about themselves and how they daydreamed and all. You didn't want to hear it when people were screaming from the rooftops. You said conspiracy theories. When that time comes, then the conversation seriously goes to what else you don't want to hear. And that's, so what? Are you going to submit now and give your life to Yeshua? That's all the conversation is going to be about, and people are going to hate it even more. Right now, the conversation is conspiracy based, matched with the Bible, mixing them both together, showing you how the Bible is trying to tell you these things. But once it actually happens, there'll be nothing more to say about than just, are you ready? Are you ready? We can help you. We can show you. Are you coming? The work of our hands. It gets to the point where you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. To see what happens next. But you know, after reading this book, it says the whole world, the whole world, the whole world. And that's why I believe nothing and I question everything. We have to understand what God is trying to tell us. The work of your hands. You see, in Star Wars, they got that planet. I think it's the capital of the Republic. And it's just pure city. It's just pure city. No trees, no, you don't even see the earth. No water. Growth, 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 growth. That's the end result of all this growth, 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 growth. Just the whole earth covered in a concrete maze. That's what we're leaving for our great grandchildren. If the Most High doesn't come and put a stop to this, which he will. Please don't ask why God has to come and kill us all. Because these guys, they plan the same as well. They plan the same. When you hear them talking about aging populations, they sound like they're complaining. And then you can see in their actions that they don't really care. I came across this channel, Grey Matters, where some old guy, he was literally asking the question, is the government trying to cull pensioners? And I thought, yes, now you're asking the right questions. They talk about declining birth rates, but the only thing they're worried about is declining birth rates in certain places and certain people. Because other parts of the world don't have a problem with declining birth rates. And they've been working on this for the best part of a century with the eugenics and all those wicked bastards. You have no idea how many times they've tried to kill us, family. We have no idea. But one thing that always works to reduce population: war. So as I've always said, this is really complicated. It's confusing. It's up to you whether you think these are naturally unfolding events. Of course, I believe God is in charge, but I also believe that He allows them to do what they're doing just to prove to us, to teach us a lesson. Because we've always trusted, we've always believed them. We constantly trust them. And we've done nothing. Because at some point these people think they're going to win, and they think they're going to hide and sit this one out. They also need an epic story for the history books to tell their generations in the bunker about what happened. And they're not going to tell them this one. But they do need 2 billion Christians, Catholics, and Hebrews around the world to believe that it's happening, or it's already happened. Let no man deceive you. These are the signs, we were told. Look for nothing but between the hand and the heel. That's when it's really happening. Until then, do not be deceived. Don't ask why God has to destroy it all. Yes, we are only human, but He asked us to be better. We let it happen.